Hello everyone. This video, I'm going to give you guys my prediction on 2026 NECO Biology Practical. I made a video about 2026 WAEC Biology Practical. So today we'll just answer some questions and the prediction. And this video is going to be long to an extent, but I'll just advise you to watch the video to the ending and try to revisit it, because if you watch my video once, I'm not very sure we'll be able to accumulate everything at a go. So it's advisable to watch it and revisit the videos again and watch it again so that you can have a mastery. So I'm very confident that in this video, we're going to, if you can understand everything in this video, trust me, there's no way you're going to fail your questions. You're going to pass the exam perfectly, because I covered the most important part. And these videos, the question I'm going to touch, trust me, they are going to come outside. I'm very certain of that. So now we'll have different specimen here. So our specimen A is pelvic girdle of a rabbit or a small mammal. All right. So it's very important for you to be very familiar with topics in biology. So for pelvic girdle, and you have to have the knowledge on the skeletal system. Okay, when you have an opportunity to know different vertebrae and how the structure look like. So this is a pelvic girdle of a mammal. So we have a cervical vertebrae. Now this is how it looks like. Then you have a caudal. This how to do with the waist side. This is how the caudal vertebrae look like. Then specimen D, you have a transverse section of pawpaw fruits. We eat pawpaw fruit very well, very common in Africa. So the transverse section. Then you have a transverse section of a guava fruit. So this is how it looks like. All right. So we check other specimens. You have your quill feather, which is found in birds. You have your Agama Lizard. This is a very good example of a reptile. You have your rats or rabbits. This is how it looks like. You have a quadrant. In my last video, when we were dealing about WAEC stuff, WAEC questions, they brought quadrant. So quadrant is very popular. If you're talking about all these population studies in biology, quadrant is very important. You can't do without quadrant. All right. So your sweep nets, when we're very small, we go to the bush to catch insects in the bush and stuff. In the not in the forest, no, in the savannah and in other bushy environment, we use the sweep net to catch of insects. Okay. So the housefly, we know housefly very very notorious. When you eat a food, you drop it, you see housefly around it. Very common. Then you have a plant called the pride of Barbados. So this is the pride of Barbados. All right. Then pride of Barbados have a pod. In my last video, when I was explaining something on fruit that has pod like legumes, I make reference to pride of Barbados. They have a very long pod. Okay. So your cashew nuts, use a cashew nuts. Very sweet. If you eat it, it tastes very delicious. Then your millipede, which is very common. You find them around, you find them in the soils, you find them in branches of leaves and whatnot. Then you have your crab. It's a crab. And you have your sorghum grains with specimen P. Yeah. So this is this. So for us to try to understand, so I want us to go through some questions together. So they'll ask you, when they ask you, identify specimen A, B, and C. Okay, so it's very important for you to be able to identify all the species so you can be able to answer questions. So, for example, if you mistake B for A, trust me, any question they ask, you're going to fail it, because the most important thing, you need to know how to identify all the species. Okay, so for A, you have a pelvic girdle. B, you have a cervical vertebrae. Then C, you have a caudal vertebrae. It is very important for you to understand vertebrae perfectly. That's why in biology, you have to be comfortable with the skeletal system. So under the skeletal system, then you come across different vertebrae. Your thoracic, your caudal, your lumbar. You have to be very familiar with all these vertebrae in biology. Okay. So for these are the three vertebrae they bring for you to learn, so you can be able to understand them in details and have more information about them. So still the function of these three specimens. So have an overview of the table. So when you're watching this video, you can take your time to just write something down and just give information. All right. So pelvic girdle support the hind limbs, protect lower abdominal organs, and provide attachment. You can see the cervical vertebrae support the head, allows neck movements, protect the upper. You understand? So I'm not here to start reading the slide. I'm not here to start. I'm just giving you an idea and my predictions. All right. So this is not a video where I want to start explaining everything in depthly, but just to give you an overview that okay, look at it. These are the information, so you can take your time to read this table and understand them very well. So all these are the vertebrae that are found in the human bones. Okay, so you have your spinal cord. You have a spinal cord. And the spinal cord is mixture of is made up of different vertebrae. Okay, so all the vertebrae are found in different parts of the human body. All right, so I just want you to understand what the vertebrae is all about. Those different bones which are arranged and are found along with the spinal cord. All right, and they're part of the skeletal system in the body. So just take your time, read this table, and just get the insight there. So it states three differences between specimen B and C. Okay, so I was able to bring out all the specimen with A, B, and C. So it's important for you to know all of them. So look at the location, very important. So for the pelvic girdle, it's found in the hip, cervical found in the neck region, and caudal found in the tail. And you know that human being, our caudal vertebrae is very reduced, unlike that of other animals like your dog, animal that has a long tail. So our vertebrae is very small and highly reduced. Okay. So for the functions, you can go through the functions, support the hind limb. You know, for the tail, it aids balancing and movement in most animals and all that. So you just take your time to go through all of them. The structure, these are the structure of all the vertebrae. All right. Then state one adaptation feature of each of these species. So it's very important for you to be able to understand the adaptive features. Okay, so for the pelvic girdle, they're broad. How do you say adaptive features? How did they adapt for them to carry out the functions? So for the pelvic girdle, they're broad and strong to support body weight and provide firm attachment for the hind limb, so that it can be easy to get for you to be balanced and prevent unnecessary problems. So support body weight. That's why it's very important to maintain your weight so that your hind limb can be able to manage the weight of your body. You know, when you have heavy weight, if you start feeling some pains in your knees because your knees and your limbs are carrying a lot of weight of the body. So that's why this pelvic girdle is very important. So cervical vertebrae, they possess a vertebral they possess a vertebral foramen and specialized, which help in flexibility of neck movements. Okay, so you can move. It helps in nodding this way. Understand? Helps for a lot of movement of the head and stuff like that. All right. So for the caudal vertebrae, which is found in the tail, they help for movement, balance, communication in animals that have tails and stuff like that. So just take your time to read all this information and get the full insight of all of them. Okay. So for the next one, you have to identify specimen D and E. All right. So it's very important. So for this one, D is pawpaw fruits and E is guava fruits. So these fruits are very common. We normally eat both of them in in Africa. All right. So pawpaw, they have large central cavity. Guava, the observable features have small seed cavities, many black seeds, small hard seeds, soft fleshy mesocarp. You know, pawpaw, the seed, if you press the seed together, it brings out some water. Okay, so they're very soft. All right. So for the guava, it has the femoral mesocarp. You know, the fruit have different part. Have your mesocarp, endocarp, and all. Understand? So that is one information you need to know for all these different plants. Okay, so you go through this and get full insight for all of them. Still the fruit type of each of this specimen. So pawpaw is a berry and guava is also a berry. So they have the same fruit type. Then the economic importance of each. Yeah, pawpaw, they both have vitamins and they are consumed as food. So guava can be used in juice production. All right, where you used to make a lot of juice, healthy juice helps the body to perform properly. Okay, so it's very important. You cannot do without placentation when you're making reference to fruits. Okay, so you must talk about placentation. So for placentation, for the guava is on axial placentation, and for pawpaw is on periatrial placentation. So it's very important for you to take note of that. If you look at me, I'm quite sweaty. Don't mind me. The way that the temperature is very high today, so I'm just trying to take out my sweat. It's just part of me. You see me wiping out my sweat. I'm not here with my handkerchief. Okay, so for the next one, specimen F, G, and H. So the F is a quill feather, and the H and the G is Agama Lizard, and H is the rats. So the poor rat or rabbit, rat or rabbit, they almost look alike in terms of structure. That's the reason why, if you're not very careful, you find it very difficult to differentiate between a rat and a rabbit. So it's very important to take note of that. Okay, one very good example, one good thing here we need to take into consideration here is that, all right. So for the class, it's very important for you to know the class of G and H. All right. So for the G is reptilia because the reptiles, and H is mammalia. They give birth to their young ones alive. Okay. So it's very important. So reptiles, your lizard, your wood gecko, they're all reptiles. Then for the H, mammals, the rat and rabbits are very good examples of mammalia. So if you come back here, you can see the quick feather. There's no point in getting that information for quick feather because that is just a feather. So I don't make reference to the animals, the animals that have a quick feather. So you just equate feather as a specimen. So that's that. So for the next question, state three observable features of specimen F, G, and H. So you can see it. You can go through this your time. Just write information about them. So we have your quick feather. So this has a hollow shaft, and you just go through it, barbs, bubbles, and all. They're very lightweight because they can, if you throw them up, they can fly around. Okay, and they're very flexible. So for the Agama lizard, it has a scaly skin, possesses claws and limbs. So very important. For the rabbits, they're covered with fur. Yeah, they call it a whole of fur and has prominent or incisors that has to do with the teeth, type of teeth for cutting. Okay, possessing four limbs and hind limbs. They use it for what movements. Yeah, even gamma lizards also have four limbs and hind limbs also. All right, so that is very good information they need to take into consideration. Okay, so state three function of specimen F. So for the quill feather, it's very good for flight. So birds use for flight. Insulation. So for insulation, they help to manage the temperature. All right. Then for protection, it's very important to protect them from harmful substance, and you can make them to be able to flap the wings to remove maybe some insects they don't need in the body, and some other things that can actually cause infection on them. Okay. Then still four differences between specimen G and H. Okay, Agama lizard and rabbits. Scales is present. They have a very dry skin. They have scales present. And for rabbits, fur is present. Agama lizard are cold-blooded, and the rabbits are warm-blooded. This is a term we use for this. What we call homeothermic. You have we call what poikilothermic. These are terms that are used in biology to differentiate between warm-blooded and cold-blooded animals. Then Agama lizard lay eggs. Rabbits, they give birth to young ones. That's what I call mammals. There are no mammary glands and mammary glands present in rabbits. So this is a very good example, a good way to differentiate between both of them. Okay. So it's very important for you to know the habitat for both of them. So for Agama lizard, you don't just write when you're writing a habitat. I know the first that comes to mind is aquatic habitats and the rest of them that you all know. So it's very important to understand that specific area that you can find all these species. Okay, so it's very important to take note of that. So for Agama lizard, they are found in dry, warm terrestrial habitats such as rocky areas, open fields, savannas, ground, and human settlements where people stay. You can see them around your surroundings. Then for rabbits, they live in grassy terrestrial habitats such as meadow, farmland, forest, and the burrows under the ground. Very good. And we know that it's very common You have a lot of rabbits that normally create holes under the ground and stay there. Okay. Then type of reproduction. So for Agama Lizard, the bone that goes sexual reproduction. And there's one good example. One, Agama Lizard lay eggs, while rabbits give birth to young ones alive. So you can see a very good term. We have oviparous. So to those animals that lay eggs, like birds, they are oviparous, while those that give birth to young ones alive, they are viviparous. Okay. All right. So you can read about types of mode of reproduction and get insight on this in biology textbook. Other reproductive system. You see types of reproduction, mode of reproduction. You can get insight on of all of them. Yeah. We have what we call ovoviparous also. So I have that type also. So for specimen I and J, you have a quadrant, you have a sweep net. So these are ecological tools, very important. So state one each of them. Then used for estimating the population or density, that is for quadrants, to know the amount of species found in the particular region. Then you have your sweep nets used for collecting insects from vegetation. Like I said, when we're very young, we go to the bush to catch insects. So we use the sweep nets to catch flying insects. Okay. All right. So state precaution when using specimen J with the sweep nets. So you avoid damaging the plant because you're going to the forested region, so you have to be careful so you won't damage your plant. Then you have to handle insects carefully because insects are very fragile, you can easily kill them. Okay. So state three advantages of specimen I. All right. So easy to use, it helps estimate. Specimen I is the quadrant, helps estimate population size. Then and useful for ecological studies, very, very important for population studies in ecology. So in case you don't, in case they ask you which other tools in ecological tools you can use in place of quadrant, it's all called transect. Transect. So this is a transect. A very good example of a transect. So I just say, okay, let me just give you the information. In case anything happen, they ask you for something like this. Okay. All right, specimen K and N. So K is housefly and the N is millipede. So classify the specimens. So for the housefly, so for its class insecta, and they're both arthropoda, but the housefly is insecta, while the millipede is diplopoda. Okay, so like I told you, the arthropods are very large. They have a lot of what class. All right. So for the next one, state four features, features, and how these features make both of them differ from each other. So for housefly, they have three body segments, millipede, many body segments. So just go through all of them. Look at the millipede don't have wings, and insects have one pair of wings, and three pairs of legs. Millipede have numerous legs, and housefly can fly, and millipede cannot fly. So these just differences between both of them. Okay. So for the next one, it's very important for you to know the habitat of each species. Okay. So for the housefly, they find human environment. You can find them around refuse dump where you put dirt and waste. You see them around it. Kitchen, animal waste, decaying organic matter. So it's very important for you to find them around those places. Then for the millipede, millipede, they are decomposers. So you can find them in leaf litters, under logs, damp forest floors. You can find them around soils. So it's very important for you to know where they're found. So when they ask you habitat, what comes to mind is terrestrial, aquatic. No, you have to be specific. So types of reproduction for housefly, they're both sexual reproduction, and both of them both lay eggs, and both of them are both oviparous. Okay. Then metamorphosis. So you cannot talk about housefly without making reference to metamorphosis. It's not possible. So the metamorphosis is complete. Why is it complete? Because it passed through the four stages. Okay, and these are the four stages. You have the eggs. So the eggs metamorphose to maggots. For the maggots to the pupa, from the pupa towards the adults. So these are the four stages. So because housefly undergo these four stages, so they are said to have what complete metamorphosis. Okay, so state to economic importance of each of them. Housefly help with pollination, and it's here to transmit diseases. Yeah. So millipede, they help in decomposition of organic matter. So they help to once an organic matter, for example, leaf, once it falls to the soil, it tends to decompose. So millipede help towards to decompose it. It also helping was in soil formation. So these are the economic importance of millipede. You cannot say you eat millipede. I don't know if anybody eats millipede, so I will not dare eat millipede anyway. Then specimen L, M, and P. So the L is Pride of Barbados Pod, M is Cashew Nut, and P is Sorghum Grain. Okay. Then identify the fruit of each of these specimens. So the L is legume, M is nuts, YP is your sorghum, is the caryopsis. All grasses like your maize, they're all caryopsis. Okay. So type of disperser, very important for you to know. So the first one is explosive disperser. That's for the pride of Barbados nuts. So explosive means when the nuts become dry, when the plant, if you look at the pride of Barbados, sorry, it is green. The pod is green, but once it becomes very old, it starts becoming brown and dry. So when it becomes dry, there's what we call dehiscence. It has a splitting in between the pod. That splitting will break open, then the seed inside the pod will start falling off. So we call that explosive what mechanism. Okay. Therefore, animal disperser, that's for the nuts, that is for the cashew nut. So I can see a cashew, break this cashew, eat it, or I can eat the fleshy part and throw the nut away. You understand? Most of the time we eat the fleshy part and we throw the nut away, but I can be very greedy and stingy and will eat the nut. I'll eat the fleshy part, put the nut in fire and eat the pod of the nut, and we'll break the pod open and eat the nut and eat everything, and that plant will not be in existence anymore. So for those people who eat the fleshy part and throw the nut away, thank you very much, because you are creating more species or more generations of the cashew. So that is animal disperser. Then for wind and human disperser, for the sorghum, so sorghum, most all the grasses, all grassy species are all dispersed by winds. Okay, so they have this kind of their seeds are very light. So once the wind blows them, they tend to wash them away, and what happens? They are being dispersed to new environment. So human beings can actually do that. I can plant maize, I get the seed of the maize and plant it deliberately. That's I'm planting deliberately on the soil, and what happens? They grow in a new place. So these are part of disperser. All right. So for the next one, yeah, for the specimen, we have different economic importance for all of them. So part of Barbados is used for ornamental purpose because they're very fine and very beautiful. Traditional medicine and soil beautification in landscape and all that. So we have cashew nuts. We eat the nuts. We use cashew oil. You have cashew apple juice and whatnot. So we consume them domestically and industrially. So for sorghum grain, they use as food, animal feed, and you brew them. Okay, so these are very very good economic importance of these three plants. Okay, so it's very important for you to understand the cotyledon, the classification based on cotyledon is very important. So for the pride of Barbados, the dicots, they have two cotyledons. So for the cashew nuts, they're dicots because they have two cotyledons. But all monocot plants like that of your grains, like your maize, sorghum, and whatnot, they all have one cotyledon because they are what? They're all monocots. Okay, very important to know the cotyledons. All right, so for crabs, specimen O, so taxonomy ranking and classification. So kingdom Animalia, phylum Arthropoda, and class Crustaceans. Okay, so it's very important to know this classification. And state four features of specimen O. So body covered by hard exoskeleton. They have hard exoskeleton. We have different. We have exo, we have endo, we have hydrostatic skeleton. So they have exoskeleton. Then they have presence of jointed appendages. They have claws, also called the chile, and their body is divided into cephalothorax and the abdomen. They don't have too much body parts, so they just have the cephalothorax and the abdomen. Okay, so it's very important. So adaptive features for specimen O, and it's very important to for other specimens, those specimens like your housefly and the rest of them. It's very important for you to learn their adaptive features. How did they adapt to the environment? So it's very important for you to get those information also. I didn't mention it there, but try to get those information. So hard exoskeleton protects the body. Strong spines are helping capture food and defense. They have the walking leg that aid movement, and the gills enable respiration in the water. Don't forget, they're amphibians. Okay, the amphibians, which means they stay in both water and on land. All right, so that's why they have walking legs to aid movement, and they have gills that enable them to respire inside the water. Okay, so it's very important. So if I ask you if they ask you a question like, so how does specimen O's live in both water and on the land, or how did they survive based on their own nature? So you can use the have walking leg that can make them to stay on land, and they have gills that can make them to respire inside the water. So it's very important. To state trade economic importance of oil, yeah, we use them as food for humans, source of protein, provide income for fishermen because they tend to sell it from one place to another, and it's very, very good in gain their money. They're harmful, so especially damage fish nets and so especially prey on fish eggs. So, so that's that. So, the kind of likely comparison you can make for specimen K and O. For example, for your housefly and your crabs, okay. So you have your class insecta, you have a class crustacean. So for housefly insecta, crab crustacean. So three body regions for housefly and two body regions for crab. That is cephalothorax and the abdomen for crabs. Then you have three pairs of legs for housefly, five pairs of legs for crab, one pair of antennae housefly, and two pairs of antennae crab. Wings present and wings absent. So it's very important to know this one. So on that likely question, state the habitat of O. So the crabs can find them in marine water, freshwater, and swampy areas. It's very important for you to know. So in terms of the specimen and the chance of appearance, so this kind of a NECO rating, just to let you know that okay, you have to learn. It may not be correct, but this is just kind of my own rating. So the pelvic girdle is likely you come out, you have more questions from there. Vertebrae, very important. You get more questions from vertebrae. Then Pawpaw and Guava, just less questions. Just okay, presentation, type of fruits and whatnot. Agama Lizard, they ask more questions about this Agama Lizard, rabbit, quadrant, sweepnets, and the housefly. They ask questions. Millipede, then you have your crab, ask questions on them. But you just have to learn everything anyway. So for the likely drawing, it's very important for you to know how to draw the pelvic girdle, cervical vertebrae, caudal vertebrae, quill feather. Okay, that quill feather, trust me. They're going to tell you to draw the quill feather and label the quill feather. They will tell you to draw the quill feather and label the quill feather. If they don't tell you to draw the quill feather, come back to this video and say you were lying. They didn't tell you to draw the quill feather. They will tell you to draw the quill feather. Trust me. Pawpaw and Guava, they may likely tell you to draw them, but this quill feather is a must. Housefly, they might. Millipede, I'm not sure they'll tell you to draw the millipede. Why? What are you drawing? Why? The housefly and quill feather, I'm very certain they'll tell you to draw them. I'm very certain they'll tell you to draw them. Okay. So thank you very much for this point for this video. But I'm just going to let you know that you can understand this video at a go, but you need to come back to this video, come back again and keep revising it for you to understand. I know, yes, I was quite fast because I was just trying to just go through the slide. So you have to pardon me for me to be fast and pardon me for me to be cleaning my face. I'm a human. Right now here in the UK, the weather is very, very hot. All right, it's very hot. So I'm just trying to make sure that I try everything to prepare this video so I can have a lot of time for you to be able to revise and go through my video over and over again. So just try your best to watch this video, share this video to your classmates, to your friends, those are writing NECO, so that you can be able to get insights from here. All right. So thank you to this point. Thank you for watching this video to this point. Pardon me, I'm quite fast because I'm trying to cover everything and I don't want to waste too much time in this video. All right. So I will see you next time. Thank you very much and enjoy your day.